Yo, Lito Lolo, coming back down to earth here. And have you or a family member ever been a victim of rage baiting? Have you ever come across such an irrational post or comment that just made you so unfathomably angry that you made it your devoted duty to respond to them with an essay in MLA format, just to find out that they were just baiting you and the masses to spark a reaction? Then, just like the end of the Saw movie where an epiphany strikes the protagonist like Travis Scott did to Cody Rhodes, you realize it was all just a game, but it's too late. You quickly scroll the comment section just to see hundreds just like you posting their own articles of thought, making a mockery of themselves, when in reality the truth was in front of our eyes the whole time. The blue check mark. Well, if you have been affected by this, call 1-800-BAIT to gain information on how to avoid this next time. Once again, that is 1-800-BAIT, B-A-I-T, to gain information on how to avoid this next time.
Callers will not receive financial compensation or have the legal authority to take this to court. This is merely a way to avoid actions like this in the future.
Alright, enough of the theatrics and tomfoolery. This is serious. Guys, I hope you have your best pants on today and make sure that they are definitely corduroy, because just like the Punisher, I am the judge, the jury, and the executioner for the day. You know, it's time to get serious. We are ready to get down to business here. Rage baiting. I'm sure we have all fallen victim to this madness, and if you haven't, here are all the signs that could indicate that you're in the midst of a rage bait attack. 1. A user makes a post to the general public that not only is contrarian to societal belief, typically could be racist, homophobic, all of the phobics, or just a blatant hyperbolic lie, but also is just so outwardly cartoonish and villainous that it stretches the bounds of time and space of our own reality. 2. The user responds to you with either a multitude of manipulative tactics that stem from gaslighting and deception, where you feel like you're on the brink of a mental collapse like Skylar White from Breaking Bad, because their entire goal isn't to reason with you, it's to continue the bit. And 3, if you want X, the blue check mark. Now that should be the biggest indicator where all the signs are being directed towards this particular user purposely antagonizing the masses for engagement. That damn blue check mark. Think about it. They pay Elon Musk $11 a month so that they could have the hopeful potential to generate revenue off of their tweets. And in order to gain exposure, they have to find ways to be successful in this very competitive market to navigate this space that involves engagement. So, a lot of them choose to rage bait because of the simple fact it's easy to make people upset. Imagine spending the little time you have on this earth conducting your entire existence around hateful and baseless nonsense just because you want to maybe make $100. Like, in reality, I feel like this can also cause the individual to be emotionally stagnated because all of their actions are both reflective of other people's opinions and immersing themselves into negativity. Instead of maybe devoting their pastime into something more positive, like, I don't know, joining a hot dog eating competition or even streaming a very obscure old generation game speed run, they fall under this trap that leads them into Viper's ult from Valorant. Hell, I'ma say it. It might not be very popular, but I'ma say it. But even OnlyFans influencers are on a higher tier than these Neanderthals because at least they release some level of stress from their gooner fan bases.
Do you understand why I had to punish you earlier?
This one executive decision from Elon Musk has fundamentally altered the space of what Twitter once was and has transformed it into a cesspool of toxicity, negative discourse, a flood of far-right hyper-nationalist neo-Nazis that had followed this far-right black pill, red pill narrative at its peak during 2022 and has been firmly fixated on this trivial ideology ever since. and also an insurmountable amount of opportunistic capitalists that would do anything to get the dollar. But today, we are actually going to check some of these rage bait posts out and rate them out of 10 to see how well did the user organically generate a reaction from the masses without making it completely obvious that they were purposely trying to bait farm. I think that would be pretty cool, pretty fun. So let's jump into it, shall we? Here we are going with the blue check mark that goes by the handle Kafina TL, commenting under a post about Ben Affleck, saying, "Ben Affleck, laughing emojis. Can anyone tell me one good movie with him in it?" Come on, Kafina. You know, this is obvious rage bait, so it's really hard to get upset at this one. But I mean, come on now. Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne. Wow, that movie was dog shit. So but you know, other than that, I mean, come on now. He has a catalog of bangers. I mean, Good Will Hunting, Argo, The Town, Dazed and Confused, Pearl Harbor. Fuck, he was Daredevil for crying out loud. You know? This one was obviously 0 out of 10 rage bait because not only did she go completely submissive once people started to reply to her and provide their list of Ben Affleck's discography, but she also only got 8 likes. You know, next time she really has to double down if she wants to climb the ranks of the greats when it comes to rage baiting. You know, but let's be honest. As long as Good Will Hunting exists, you objectively can't say that Ben Affleck does not have one good movie. Let's be real here. In this next one, we have a user by the handle by Dodson say, "It's time we admit that this movie wasn't as good as the critics made it out to be, and it's the movie Parasite." Now, I'm not gonna lie, this one got me heated. This one got me a little heated. I'm not gonna lie. Like, what do you mean the movie wasn't as good as the critics made it out to be? Because if we could actually look at Rotten Tomatoes, even the user reviews are extremely high. So what are we talking about, sir? What are we talking about? You know, the movie about social classism and the psychological differences that wealth disparity imposes on the rich and the poor, that really opens the eyes on how unjust and unethical the economic system that we have currently is. You know, my blood pressure is rising just thinking about it. But even with my sudden burst of rage, this is also obviously bait, because you can't just get a beloved movie that people actually enjoy and say it wasn't good. Even the comment section called him out on this and could see through the lies. But because this one actually got me heated, and because he was able to get 1K likes, I'll say this was like a 7.5 out of 10. Fuck it, I'll give it an 8 because I really was upset. This next one is by user Clipped Season, who posts a photo of a Mount Rushmore consisting of the streamers Aiden Ross, IShowSpeed, Kai Cenat, and Ricegum, and say, "Is this an accurate Mount Rushmore for the pioneers of streaming?" Now, I would say, as an individual who has respected the culture of streaming and has had a semi-investment in coming to understand the history of it, this post is so disrespectful to the actual pioneers that were able to build the foundations of what streaming currently is. Granted, the streamers on this list have paved the way for the next generation of streamers, but that doesn't mean that they were the founding fathers of streaming. You know, plus a lot of these streamers that were mentioned started to gain traction post-COVID. So this Mount Rushmore is completely neglecting the decade of streaming that existed before then. Now, if the intention of this user was to rage bait, well, then good job. Because a lot of people in the comment section were upset. And to the point where they even posted their own idea of who should really be on the Mount Rushmore. You know, this right here is 10 out of 10 rage bait, and what's even able to amass over 50k likes. Just absolutely colossal numbers. This is like Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. We have this completely mental post from Shitpost Rock, and just based off his name, we already know this one's going to be a doozy, where he types not a single 10 out of 10 in this video, And it's a montage of some pretty successful video games being showcased that have come out through the last decade. Now, granted, I do agree that not every single game on this list would be considered masterpieces, but come on now, man. You have Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption and Naughty Dog's The Last of Us on this list. There is no way that you can confidently say there is not a single 10 out of 10 on this list. Like, sure, subjectively, we all have our own opinions of what we consider to be good, but typically, there is an overall universal metric to understand which games are critically acclaimed. So him saying this was obviously for rage bait purposes, and I think that the comment section were aware of this as well, but I'm going to give this a 9.3 out of 10 because not only did he get 23k likes, but he also doubled down with this photo, which is pretty based. Here is another couple gaming posts that came out recently where people were trying to shit on Oblivion Remastered. This one guy says to not support the remastered version and to embrace tradition. Listen, sir, you can embrace tradition all you want. I am going to fight the spider Daedra with uncapped FPS. Go suck my cock. Obvious rage bait though, negative 10 out of 10. His entire page is dedicated to this type of cringe. And this other one where this guy, similar to the last poster, attempts to politicize every game that comes out that has any feature that regards transgender people, where he says the gaming industry is evolving backwards and it's just him upset that they no longer have a sex option, which is like the summarization of all his tweets bundled into one. I would give him a 5 out of 10 because at least he's consistent with his phobia cringe, but due to the fact that his brigade wasn't successful and because of this he started to actually post positively about Oblivion right after that, makes me think that he doesn't have a backbone to stand on. So negative 100 out of 10. Also, it must be stressful to be this miserable every time a new game releases. Now we are going to go into a collection of content creators that purposely attempt to rage bait the X community to farm engagement. And although some of them are usually harmless and are obviously hyperbolic, two somewhat successful online influencers that tend to cross the line and have established their careers off of these controversial beliefs are Myron from Fashion Fit and Andrew Tate. Now, the tactics and verbal tools that they utilize in their favor is the fact that they do not have a filter when approaching their post. Every single one of the rounds that they shoot into these online spaces is borderline racist, misogynistic, or consumed in far right-wing ideology. They prioritize shock factor, and because they are protected under the free speech clause that Elon Musk has created for his website X, they basically can say whatever they want. Some of the words I actually have to blur because they are just plain racist and evil-spirited. Here is one from Myron speaking about Bobby Althoff. This thought ruined her marriage, missed the birth of her baby to be in bed with Drake, and sacrificed her family for fame. This post is clearly rage baiting the internet masses and attempting to instill fire in all the hyper conservatives, which is his intention. This is what Myron Gaines characterizes himself to be, the villain of the leftists, the liberals, the Democrats, where he even chooses to rage bait IRL.
A man's job is to be a leader and be assertive and convey information. Women, you guys will be quiet and make sandwiches. That's the difference.
The fact that they are able to keep up with this bit and profit off of it makes me want to give them a 10 out of 10. But because I feel like they are partially responsible for fueling a swarm of incels and politicizing this far-right conservative narrative into the minds of a lot of young males, I am going to drop it down to a 5 out of 10 because the damages they have caused the world. They are terrible people. But this then crosses the line of morality, especially when there is no longer guidelines or restrictions to exist and to prevent this unethical behavior from happening, where people purposely try to be hateful to garner engagement. This lack of boundaries really brought out the racist and just the worst kind of people into this online space. You know, you assume that in the big 2025 that racism has reduced astronomically, and it probably has in comparison to a century ago, but by only a small percentage. Because as we see in these online spaces like X that has no moderation, that it still exists heavily, and it is the worst kind imaginable. And unfortunately, that caused this political agenda of an altercation between two teenagers where a white male was stabbed by a black male. Now, the racists on X were really trying to rage bait this racial narrative and paint the white male Austin McCaff as their mascot. You know, like they were actively comparing this fatal conflict with George Floyd to instill some level of rage in other racist neo-Nazis or xenophobes. But the issue lies in the fact that these are two completely different situations, and I'm sure that they know that. They are literally just trying to grasp onto anything to make a political scheme. You know, one was between an active police officer who swore to protect and serve the law that is under the Constitution, and the other is between two teenagers. You know, one was political because it's been systematically ingrained and with evidence that police brutality and black oppression does in fact exist in today's society. And the protests were to finally bring change to that once and for all. You know, by statistic, it is a fact that a race is more likely to kill their own race than any other race. But the fact that they politicize it causes like big batch of conflict between two sides. This tension that was always there and will probably always be there. It's like they just bring it out of each other every now and again. But because of that, because of the anger, they managed to cause the offender to raise money for his campaign, which honestly, at the end of the day, it's just these two sides at war. That's what this is. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the death of this individual. They don't care about Carmelo Anthony. It's just causing more hate, when in reality, if you want me to be honest, this man, Carmelo Anthony, does deserve to go to jail just based off the facts, right? He's claiming self-defense, but the truth of the matter is that the action that he committed was not proportionate to the one Austin McCaff committed. You know, he brought a knife to a fight involving fists. And on top of that, the Texas Stand Your Ground law states you can actively protect yourself if you stand your ground, but only if you feared for your life and you didn't have any other way out or any other option. But after Carmelo did what he did, he ran away. So it's a very difficult case for him, if I'm going to be honest. And unfortunately, life had to be lost. And it sucks that people are trying to use this young man who had a bright future ahead of him as this mascot for their political views. You know? Like, this was crazy. This was all rage bait. This was them attempting to rage bait and upset the masses to instill some level of like fire to the world so that there can be like some civil conflict between races. It's cringe, you know? Now, thankfully, this didn't actually gain any traction whatsoever, because I'm sure that people were aware that this was irrational, but still, this is the culture of rage baiting. Just a bunch of hate culminated into these online spaces, causing a separation between different groups, and it's honestly degenerating for a lot of progressivity that we have produced over the years. It's such a weird time. I don't know. Just wanted to rant about that. Anyways, that's all from me. I'm off to another dimension. See you.